I was in anguish about leaving the state police. I couldn't sleep, which I don't have problems sleeping. I usually go to sleep within 2 seconds, my head hit the pillow, but I couldn't sleep. I'm leaving the pension, I'm leaving insurance, I'm leaving a steady paycheck that I know is coming every 2 weeks. Like, I'm gonna leave this security and jump off into the unknown. That I've been a fireman, I've been a police officer, I've been a construction worker, I've been a roofer, been a YouTuber.
Welcome to the Yeah But podcast, where leaders transform excuses into breakthroughs. I'm Marc Wolfe, host and author of Yeah But. I interview New York Times bestselling authors, human rights activists, former CIA director, and everyone in between. Our guests share how they overcome doubts like I'm not ready to yeah, but I don't have time. Join us to learn how you can do the same.
So Matt, thanks for being on the show. Matt Outlaw, everyone, huge YouTuber, but I'm going to let him introduce himself because he's more than just a YouTuber. This guy's a guy with a lot of different things that have gone on in his life. So Matt, tell our audience about 2 things about you personally, 2 things professionally, and why it matters.
Okay. Personally, I've been married to my wife for 25 years, been together 26. We actually met and got married on the same day of the year, July 31st. 7/31. And then we have 3 kids together and 3 pups, and usually we miss the pups more than the kids when we travel. So all the kids are grown out of the house. So
Okay. And so tell us a little bit about your business background or some other background about you that's not personal.
I was an Arkansas State Trooper for 13 years. I actually was with the agency for 15 years. I started in 2006 and then went to troop school in 2008, all the way up through 2021. I was a trooper from 08 to 21.
Okay. So, and then you're not still a trooper anymore, are you?
No, I left in 2021 to do full-time YouTube.
Full-time YouTube. Is there a lot of people that go from state troopers to YouTube woodworkers?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I didn't know if that was a career path in Arkansas where they were like, okay.
Training you up to be a YouTuber.
Yeah, you just never know.
Yeah, there's not a lot of us.
Okay, so, and why do you think this would matter to our audience, business people and people that are overcoming yeah buts?
I think it's one of those things where you take a leap of faith, right? Because in 2021, I was a sergeant with the state police, so I'd already made rank. I was basically off the highway. I did work a little bit on the highway, but I was in a supervisory role. I had 3 counties that I was supervisor over, and I was pretty much next in line for lieutenant. Of course, nothing's guaranteed. You had to take the test and then be interviewed and all this stuff. But for the most part, like my captain and my lieutenant were telling me, my lieutenant was fixing to retire, and they're like, we want you to be lieutenant. And so that meant, you're set because you got desk job then, right? And so, but it's just one of those things where as the YouTube channel was starting to take off and a lot of stuff was going on behind the scenes, and I just felt like the mission was over. I love the state police. I thought that I could not believe they paid me to be a state trooper for a long time. And I was eat up with it. You can ask my wife. Like I was eat, breathe, and sleep it. I just loved it. And I love most of it. But I hated going to court. But it's like, I love doing that job. My mission when I left the house every day was to try to find a drunk driver. Mm-hmm. Like that's what I wanted to do. And I was good at it. I could find them pretty good. And so I wanted to do that. And then I made rank. And then as that went on, the YouTube channel started taking off, I was like, this is kind of starting to be, I could feel the door closing on that mission. And that's kind of the way I always explain it. It's like the mission was over. It wasn't that I didn't love the job or love the people that I work with anymore. Is I knew that chapter in my life was closing and it was time to do something else. And it wasn't an easy decision. It was one of those, we prayed a bunch about it. We actually, if you ever read The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson, it's a really good book. It talks about praying circles around what you want. And so my wife and I would hold hands and walk around our house and just pray, for God to open the right door, close the other doors, just different things about that. And so that's kind of how everything, a little bit, I guess, on how things started transitioning from trooper into jumping off into YouTube full time.
So let's go back a little. So you become a trooper, you love this job, you really feel like you're making a difference. You're on the road, but now you're in this desk job or at least even more of a desk job as you move forward. And the first thing you think is, I really should be a YouTuber if I'm not going to be a trooper.
No. So back in 2017, we were broke. Like, couldn't pay attention, broke. 4 months behind on our mortgage at one point, had to file bankruptcy at one point, a lot of medical stuff. Her dad moved in with us. We had to take on his home. Like, this is a whole bunch of stuff. And I fought tooth and nail not to file bankruptcy. Like, I think we probably had more arguments about that than anything. We do not argue, and we argued about that because she knew it was the way out, you know. And so we finally talked about it, and I finally conceded to it. And it was one of those things where we wanted to make sure we paid back how much, you know, the people. So we filed the 13 or whatever, so you can make the payments on it for 5 years or whatever. Anyway, we were really broke, and so I was looking for a way to try to make extra money. And I had another YouTube channel, still there. I just don't use it. It's called Scanning Arkansas. I used to be big into radio scanners before I was a trooper. I was a fireman, and I would listen to the police. You know, it's one of the things. A rare thing to happen. A fireman actually want to be a cop. And so I would listen to the police scanner all the time, and I had a bunch of them. I even got into it so much I was actually beta testing scanners for companies before they released them. Anyway, I put a few videos out on YouTube on these radios. I wouldn't show my face or anything. I would just show them. I wouldn't even talk. Like, I was just very awkward. And that channel was making about $100 a year off of YouTube ads. And I thought in 2017, I was like, I need to make some extra money. I was sitting at home one day. I was watching YouTube, and I watched a guy build a set of chairs, an outdoor chair set. I was like, I think I could make those, and I think I could sell those. And I had just got paid from that channel. It was $100. And so I took that $100 and went to the store and bought some 2x4s, and I borrowed a circular saw and a couple of drills, circular saw from my dad and drills from my father-in-law. And I made that set of chairs. And when she come home, I had them in the garage. I'd made them out back in the storage shed. And when she pulled up, she's like, "Oh, I love those. I want them." I was like, "We're selling these." And she said, I think we argued about it. Not really argued, but she's like, "Please, can I have them?" I was like, I got to sell them. And I got to make my money back because I just spent $40, $50 on lumber. And she's like, "Okay, I'll help you." And so she staged them up because she's got this marketing degree, so she's really good at it. So she helped me put a rug down in the garage and put plants on the end table or the side table I made, and a drink on there and pillows. I made it look fancy, you know. I took some pictures with my phone, posted them on Facebook, and they sold the next day. And I just repeated the process, you know, went and bought. So that happened for about 3 months where I was building and selling. And I thought I had this genius idea. I was like, I can make a YouTube channel, and I can make another $100 a year. So that would be $200 a year. And that's what I thought. Like, seriously, that's what I was thinking. And so I made the YouTube channel, and the first video was about I think it was a DeWalt sander versus a Walmart sander. And I wasn't showing my face. The camera was facing them, and I was talking real monotone. I was very nervous. You know, I just was very awkward, very nervous on camera. But that was the first video, and then I just make more videos every so often. And so that's kind of how all the YouTube things started way back in 2017.
So you wanted to make money.
Yep.
And your wife wanted to keep the furniture, and you had to convince her to be like, "Hey, this is a moneymaker."
Yeah.
And you weren't even making that much, but it was more than you were investing in it and making more than you spent.
Yeah, I was getting profit on it. Of course, I wasn't pricing anything properly. I didn't know how to price what I was selling. And I would ask her a lot, all the time, like, "What should I charge for this?" Or, "I'm thinking about charging this." And she's like, "That's way too low. Like, if you look at this, that, and the other, you'd charge a whole lot more." And so I was just trying to make some extra money because I wanted to take her on a date. She's sitting over there. And I was wanting to take her on a date or buy her something. Like, we didn't have that money. Like, we didn't have money to buy anything extra. We had 3 kids, all in school, all in activities. Daughter did dance, competition dance, and cheer. Had kids in the band and soccer and baseball. I mean, you know how it is. Like, they want to do stuff, and you want to let them do that kind of stuff. And so we was doing everything we could to let them do activities they wanted to do without them knowing that we were broke. You know, you don't share that stuff with your kids. Or we didn't. They saw it, but it was, you try to help not share it as much. And but they, looking back, and like our oldest son, he's very, very prudent with his money. I mean, he's probably still got his lunch money from the 3rd grade. He keeps his money. He knows exactly where all the money's coming from and where it's going. And if he spends a dime, he wants to make it back. But he watched us through that period, and he understood, hey, they're struggling. And I didn't realize he was watching it so hard. But that's the main goal of starting the YouTube channel and the woodworking, was to make some extra money.
So, I mean, you have some buts. There was a bunch in there, but some of the specific ones, it's like, knowing when you're ready. Yeah, but I'm not ready. I mean, leaving one occupation that people retire from that job. Yeah. Like, they stay and they get a pension, and they got all that cool stuff that comes with that. How did you overcome, but I'm not ready, when that came up in your head?
Prayer, a lot of prayer, and a lot of torment on the inside. Really, starting out, we prayed the circles, and what happened was in 2017, right? 2016. There was a video I made that took off, and what's it? 2021. My timeline's off. I started the channel in 2017. In 2020, in August of 2020, I made a video. I saw a video on another channel that said 5 woodworking projects to sell, and I saw it and I thought, I could make that video. I've got 5 projects to sell, and their video had 1 million views, and I'd never had a video take off. Like I had a few with maybe, I don't know, a few, 5,000 or 20,000 views over. This was what, 4 years in, and I just didn't have a big video. I was just grinding away, And I saw that video, and I was like, I got that video. I can do that. And so I went in the garage, set my phone up. That's what I was using with the record with the phone. And I was like, these are 5 woodworking projects to sell. And I just talked about those projects to sell.
Were you on camera yet?
Yeah, I was on camera by then.
Okay.
Yeah, this is about 4 years in.
Okay.
And so I had been making projects and all this stuff. And I made this video, and in that video, I wore a shirt that said, "In God We Trust." And that was the first video I had wore any Christian-based shirt. Every other video I'd wear like DeWalt shirt or whatever. I even had a Marvel shirt on it. I don't even know where I got that shirt at. But that was one of those that video took off, and everybody was commenting on the shirt. I was like, well, I'm a believer. I'm not afraid to share my faith, And I was like, I told her, I said, I got to order some more shirts. And so I went and looked for shirts. I think Caruso was the ones I found first, and they're also an Arkansas company. I didn't know that till a few years ago. And so I ordered a couple shirts off Caruso, and I started wearing those in every video. Anyway, that video took off, and it really changed. Like, one video can change your life. That's what I always tell people. One thing can change your life, and I had no idea that was going to happen, because I'd never had one take off. And it took, I was just ecstatic. I was like, this is awesome. Like, people are just like watching this video like crazy. And it's actually, people were benefiting from the video, because I had all the other projects that I was telling them about were build videos on the channel, so they could go actually build it, and they could sell it, and they could make some money with their stuff. And so it was actually helping people. And I started to realize that. And at the time, we were doing pretty good on Etsy. Like, I was selling stove covers. She calls them a noodle board, but they're like, you set them on a stove, and it's just like an older thing that a lot of people had. And she wanted one, and she designed it. Like, nobody else was selling like that. It had a different style handle on them. And them things took off on Etsy. And so I was making a lot of those, like a lot, like multiples a week, 8 or 10 a week. Like, I'd lay in bed and hear the cha-ching on Etsy when you make a sale. It says cha-ching, and I would go, oh, not another one. Like, I hadn't got to that point.
And this is all just you.
Yeah, it was just me. And so I would get up early in the morning before work and work on them, and work on them late in the afternoon. And those things were just selling like crazy. And I told her, I said, I got to let this go. And she's like, okay. And I was like, it's one thing she's always been like, okay, whatever, she's just always supportive. And so I was giving up. I told her, I said, it's going to cost. We're going to give up a bunch of money if I do this, because we were making good on those. And I said, if I want this YouTube thing to go, I gotta slow it down. And the only way to do that is to let that go, because it's taking up so much time. And so we did. I took them all down off of Etsy, and of course the Etsy money went whoop, just like that. It's gone. And so, but the YouTube thing was still going. Like, I was making more videos. I was able to make more videos, and those videos were, not every one of them was taken off, or even most of them weren't taken off like that. I don't remember how long later it was before I had another one hit like that, but it was a long time. But I was able to spend more time focusing on that. And so it just kept going. And so the big video took off in August of 2020. I left the state police in May of 21, so we're only talking about 7 or 8 months. And the stuff that transpired in that little bit of time was what really changed everything. Because once I started looking at YouTube differently, I went from 20,000 subscribers when the video took off to 100,000 subscribers in just a couple of months. And it had taken me 4 years to get to 20,000. And it took me just a couple months to get to 100. And as I was wearing the videos, I was starting to get messages and emails and comments about, the shirts that I wear. It always had scripture based or stuff like this, faith over fear. And it was really inspiring people. Like, I had this guy from Florida is a police officer. He emailed me. He said, "Hey man, you don't know me, and I don't know you." He said, "But I was watching your video." He said, I was sitting in my house tonight. I was thinking about killing myself." He said, "I don't do YouTube. I don't do woodworking." He's like, "But I opened YouTube and your video was right there, and I clicked on it, and I don't know why. And I saw that shirt." He said, "And I didn't do it." And he said, "I just want you to know that." I was like, wow. You know, like stuff like that. And I got, not to that level, but a lot of messages started coming in about that just from shirts I was wearing. Started talking about going full time with it. And at the time, again, like you said, I was set up to retire. You know, I could make the lieutenant, maybe make captain one day, have a really good pension, full paid family insurance, like had it all lined out. What do you think? You know, your road is paved for you.
Hey there, it's time for a quick break. While we're diving into how to live, learn, and lead better, I wanted to let you in on something I'm really excited about. If you've ever found yourself stuck in the yeah, but cycle, those moments where excuses get in your way of your potential, my new book, Yeah, But, Cut Through the Noise to Live, Learn, and Lead Better is for you. The book is packed with practical strategies, real stories, and actionable advice to help you stop making excuses and start making progress. Whether you're a leader, a learner, or just someone looking to cut through the noise, Yeah, But has something for you. And here's the best part. For a limited time, you can grab a chapter for free. Just head over to my website at www.marcawolfe.com/book to get started. Readers have already said that the perspective and stories guided them to get unstuck and move forward. All right, let's get back to the show and dive into more ways to break through those yeah, but moments.
But at the time, the YouTube channel was not producing enough business, or the business wasn't producing enough money to cover what I was making for the state police. And so we talked about it. So we actually refinanced our house and took enough money out that if YouTube didn't work out, then we would have 1 year to be able to live and eat, basically. Had prayed about it, and I was in anguish about leaving the state police. Like I couldn't sleep, which I don't have problem sleeping. I usually go to sleep within 2 seconds, my head hitting the pillow, but I couldn't sleep. I was just worried constantly, like I'm leaving the pension, I'm leaving insurance, I'm leaving a steady paycheck that I know is coming every 2 weeks. I got a good job, work with good people. Like there was nothing wrong, you know? And I was like, man, it's crazy. Like I'm gonna leave this security and jump off into the unknown. I've told people many times, I've only heard God talk to me twice. Not like the burning bush, you know, like the plant's not talking to me, but I heard him in my spirit. And the first time was about my wife. And then the second time I was working out, I was praying about leaving the state police and worrying about what's gonna happen if, you know, what if, yeah, but what if it don't work out? Yeah, but what if, you know, we go broke, you know, or I go hungry. And I was working out. I got a little home gym, and I was working out. I was putting the weight plate back on the stack, and as soon as it clinked, I heard, "I created the universe. I got this." I was like, instant peace. And I had been in a lot of worry for a couple of months that I'd been talking about it, thinking about it. So, well, probably since January or February of that year. This was May, and we've been talking about it, praying about it, and worried about it. I had been worried about it. She had. So I walked into the house as soon as I heard, like I was done working out. I walked in. This is on a Friday, and I woke her up. She was still asleep. I said, "Hey, I'm quitting Monday," and she said, "Okay, let's do it." And I walked in. I don't know if we can get into that, but I walked in the captain's office, turned around and noticed him. That was a whole ordeal there.
So, you know, there's a lot in all of that with your walk and how you address things, and even your own fear. I mean, there's so many different places to go here, from picking the right spouse that's going to support you even in crazy things, to thinking about what other people are going to say. So, because you were talking about leaving the state police, let's start there. When you said that, what was your concern at all? What other people were going to say?
Of course.
Okay, so how do you go and deal with a state trooper's kind of, that's a whole different thing. It has a lot more presence than being a YouTuber, right? I mean, how did you go through that mentally? Walk me through that.
Yeah. Well, first, like a lot of them didn't even know I had a YouTube channel because I didn't want anybody to know. Like it's one of those things, like when I first started making videos, if you could go watch the very first videos, I first videos I wasn't on camera, and then I was like from here down showing my hands or whatever, and then I slowly would get on camera, and I was very monotone. I wasn't myself. I was just so nervous. It's almost having like stage fright because I know people are watching, and so I was scared to death that somebody was going to see it that I work with, and then make fun of me.
The irony of seeing my YouTube video that I put out publicly.
I know. Like I was worried that somebody that would know about it, But after a while, few people knew. Like they didn't really think anything of it. They just knew I had a YouTube channel and a couple of the guys I work with, or whatever. But when I decided to quit, like I wrote up a resignation letter, just to give my 2 weeks notice, and because I wanted to go out. They were very good to me, and so I didn't want any hard feelings or let them down. And I knew that like the captain had stuck his neck out for me and spoke up for me to get promoted when I go to sergeant. Like you have to have recommendations to get promoted, and so he was a good guy. Like he also does woodworking, and he knew I had a channel, and like he knew that stuff. We talked woodworking multiple times a week. Every morning we go in his office and sit and talk of it. And the day I went in I was worried like what they would think or think that I knew they were going to think I was crazy. And they had zero idea that I had even thought about leaving, like zero, because they were talking to me about being a lieutenant and like are you studying for the test, because the tests were coming up. And I walked in there and like I did every morning, walk into the captain's office, the lieutenant's sitting at a table on the right, captain's at his desk, and then there's a couch, kind of like that one. And I always sit on the couch and we shot the breeze. If there was something going on, we could discuss it or whatever. But usually it was just, whatever. Walked in there and I was like, Captain, I can give you this. And I laid it on his desk. He said, what is it? And I said, it's my 2 weeks notice. He just looked at me. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm leaving. I'm gonna do YouTube full time. He just looked at me, and my lieutenant was like, he was bumfuzzled. He was my sergeant and then my lieutenant, and Captain read it. He's like, are you sure this is what you want to do? And I was like, yes, sir. He's like, why? And I said, I do believe I'm being called to do this. And I said, there was a man one time who was told to go to Nineveh, and he didn't go, and he went on the belly of fish, and I don't like fish that much. And he's like, are you sure? He said, you think about it. I was like, no. And we talked about it back and forth. My lieutenant started making fun of me, actually, and like seriously ridiculing me. He's like, what, are you gonna build your own church now? Stuff like that. I was like, kind of got one. And I said, God's using the channel in crazy ways like I would have never dreamed of, and still we'll never know this side of heaven. Different things. And I was like, but this is what I'm doing. Like this is sink or swim, I'm doing it. And the captain's like, okay, if this is what you want. I was like, yes, sir. And he said, all right. So he said, well, he said, he called the secretary. He said, pull up all his time that he has. And so they brought it down. I had a bunch of, I didn't take a whole bunch of sick, I didn't ever take sick leave unless I absolutely had to. So I had a bunch of sick leave and a bunch of holidays, a bunch of, we can bank all that in state police. And so you got paid for X number of sick leaves that you have. So I was basically on leave. They just let me, take off my leave the rest of the time. They didn't have to, but I was actually on leave from May until July, and still on the books, basically on getting paid every 2 weeks, and which is a huge blessing. And they write you a check for your sick leave, and then you can take all your holiday and annual leave. And so that was a huge blessing. But I don't think they fully believed me for the first little bit. It was like, well, they thought I was playing a prank or something, but they just
it was legit.
Yeah, I worried about what they thought or stuff like that, especially the guys I work with. Like I was worried that they would think bad of me or whatever, because I like them a lot. But
would you have to unlearn, because the culture of being in police work and working for the government ultimately, and the culture of working as a YouTuber, those are completely different cultures with different mindsets, different audiences. But one thing was, you were in both places. Would you have to forget?
I think as a trooper, like on the highway, as a trooper, especially an Arkansas State Trooper, you're by yourself, and like there ain't nobody coming to save you. Like you have to do it. And so if you get into the crap on the side of the road, it's on you, And so I think a lot of times it's not that I had to learn anything. I think a lot of the state police discipline that comes with being a trooper, going through the training, how you handle yourself. Like, I think a lot of that helped going into the YouTube, because it's one of the, like, well, you can ask my wife, I'm very disciplined about certain things. I'm going to get up and work out every morning at 4:45 or 5 a.m. And like, I'm going to sit down on my computer at a certain time every morning. I'm going to take lunch at the same time every day. Like, I'm structured. Like, I have to have that in my life. And I think it's one of the things that, I don't know if that was there before the state police. Maybe it was. You can ask her. She says no. But that instilled into me the importance of discipline and not motivation. So I think a lot of people feel like, I'm not motivated enough. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm not motivated enough. I'm not motivated right now to go. I get this a lot because we do some private coaching for woodworkers. And it's like, they'll say, how do you stay motivated? It's like, you don't. You stay disciplined. Because if you stay motivated, your motivation is going to come and go because you don't feel like it, or you had a bad day, or you got a headache, or whatever.
So you let your feelings run your life.
Right.
You're always going to be disappointed.
Yep.
When you pre-decide, as Craig Groeschalk says in his book, and he talks about pre-deciding to do things. And it sounds like that's part of your pro tip, is if you pre-decide you're going to get up at 4:45 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah, it's non-negotiable.
Right.
I have rest days built in, a few, not many. But because, like, in training, if you're training your body, whether you're running or lifting or whatever, I do a little bit of all, run, bike, lift, I can sleep till 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. Or I can, if I don't feel like working out, I can at least go get on the bike and do a very low effort road. I can just put a YouTube on and ride for an hour. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sweating, I'm not out of breath, but I am doing something active with myself. And I'm just very disciplined in that way. And the same thing with YouTube and even when I was state police, I was very disciplined. And my work ethic has always been very high. My dad gave me that work ethic. My wife has a strong work ethic. And so I think that's very important too, like just to have a strong work ethic, but do something on purpose for a purpose type thing.
This isn't something you're always born with.
No.
Here's a few things I want to make sure we unpack a little, because there's so much here. Some of it's instilled by your parents, but some of it, like for me, it was because I saw what not to become, right? Not to become a smoker, not to become overweight, not to go through bankruptcy, and to go through and be on welfare and food stamps like my parents were because of their divorce, to not be divorced too.
Right.
So what I want to make sure people hear too is that, buts and overcoming things, or sometimes you look at something you didn't have and you're like, I don't want that for myself or my kids.
That's one of the main reasons I'm so disciplined with working out, is because I know for a fact that I have an addictive personality. In other words, I can get addicted to something very quickly. When my wife and we hadn't been married long, I started drinking beer, and I liked it a lot. And she says, I didn't marry somebody that's going to drink beer every day. Like, she's like, put her foot down. She's like, this is not happening. And she saved my life. I believe that, because I would have went down that road, because I know that because my mom went down that road. She was addicted to prescription pills my entire life. When I was 4 years old, she slipped and fell, went to the doctor prescribed her hydrocodone, instant addiction right then. So I knew that I didn't want that life. And so part of my addiction is I decided that I was going to be addicted to doing something good for me versus something detrimental. And so that's why I work out. That's where my energy goes, as far as that addictive part of it.
I think there's a lot of lessons here about intentionality. How much is it making sure you live your life and being able to adjust through mistakes? Because it sounds like a great story, and look at how well things are going, and hey, I start out, but how do you adjust with things when they don't go well?
I mean, we had a bunch of stuff not go well. Again, we filed bankruptcy. We had 4 months behind on our mortgage, and I felt like a failed husband. Like, I'm the guy that's supposed to be earning, keeping the family up, and it's just like there's lots of places I've failed in my life. Starting out making woodworking stuff, a lot of it didn't sell. I had this bright idea one time I was going to paint the set teal blue for some reason, and it sat on the porch for months. Like, I couldn't get rid of it. I couldn't give it away. I feels like, that's ugly. A coffee table that I've made one time, this is terrible. It looked terrible. Like, I look at pictures of it now, I'm like, that's terrible. And I know why it didn't sell, but at the time I was like, why ain't nobody buying this? I mean, it's just, you just adapt and overcome. You gotta, like, not everything's gonna work out. And it's like posting videos on YouTube. We post 2 long videos a week, and I post probably almost 10 short videos a week. Most of them don't take off like millions of views. 99% of them don't. If they get 100,000 views in 6 months, like that's good. Like I'm okay. A lot of them get, about 100,000 views in the first week or so, and then they just stop. Like that's how YouTube is. Like the algorithm just stops posting them out there. But the long game is different there because sometimes they do really well. And if I can have one every month or so, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, do really well, it keeps the momentum going. It's like looking at a stock. Like when it's going up, if you look at Walmart stock, right, or whoever the popular thing is, Microsoft. Like at the very first time they release their stock, it's down here. And if you pull the all-time graph out, all of them go up, almost all of them. Like they go up, but they're not just a straight arrow, right? There's dips and there's up, and there's dips and there's up. And that's the same way with any business, I think, or anytime you want to step out and do something new or try something new, or it's just, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be valleys. A friend of mine calls it the valley of despair. He's like, everything's going great, and then it's not. And then you're in this valley of despair, and you can make 2 choices. You can either figure it out, try something, do something, and try to get it back up, or you can give up. Like you got 2 choices.
Yeah. And as you talk about like YouTube and you talk about choices you make and business decisions, this isn't always a school thing, right? Sometimes you just have to understand that there needs to be an alternative path.
Yeah.
And you have to make decisions that you don't always see clearly. So use prayer, right? I do as well, to pray about things and understand what's going on. But when you do that and it's confusing and it's unclear and you are a person who likes process and wants to know what it is, what do you say to people it's really not clear what the next steps are? Like, yeah, but I don't know what to do next.
Gotta do something, right? So you can sit and do nothing. What's that gonna do? Like if you're doing nothing and you're just thinking or trying to, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. You gotta do something. Like if you don't do anything, nothing's gonna change, right? You gotta try something. I don't always know a video is gonna work. We try new videos, try new style, try new something, didn't know certain products are going to take off or not. We have physical products that we sell, and we don't know for a fact. You can kind of gauge your customer base and try to figure out if they're going to be interested, and sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. There's a bunch of products we've had and have, I don't know what you call it, sunsetted. Like we don't use them anymore. We take them off the store because they didn't sell. Like it's just part of it. You got to try something. But I think a lot of people use the excuse of I don't know what to do nothing. And you have to try to do something. Like if you have a dream, I firmly believe that we're all given dreams and passions for a reason, but it's up to us to chase those dreams and to chase those passions. Other than I created the universe, I got this, there was no I got this and you're going to do X, Y, Z to get to this point. It's like I got this, just trust me, And so, okay, what do I do next? Like, I don't, make more videos or make more, whatever your passion is. I was telling her, I was like, if you're passionate about drawing, draw stuff. If you're passionate about art, do your art. Like,
because at least you'll be enjoying it if it doesn't always make money. Because not everything makes money.
No, not everything's about money.
And not everything creates an outcome.
Right.
I want to make sure people hear this too. You rob other people by not doing what you were created to do. So it's not always about you, us, about doing something. It's about you reaching people in a way where they're like, wow, I need to hear that now at this time. And it happened to be through you.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's nothing new under the sun. So we're not saying anything. You're not creating something. You're not cooking something that's so unique that somebody's like, wow, I've never seen this before ever. It's really just now is the time to have ears to hear, to be able to see it and be able to do it. So what is the end game? Where does this go, Matt? Where do you...
I don't know, honestly.
So you're just open to wherever it takes you? You just don't know what's next,
We don't.
Right?
Keep moving forward, as they say.
This is a great story, and it's great because it's real and it's timely.
It's never too late to start. I always feel like we have people that join our coaching community that are in their 70s and 80s and just went out wanting to start selling their woodworking stuff or get started with, their passion. Like it's not too late.
No more yeah buts.
Thank you for listening to the Yeah But podcast. If today's episode provided valuable perspective on how to overcome the excuses that can hold you back, let us know in the comments. Remember, it's not about the yeah buts. It's about finding ways to live, learn, and lead better every day. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little kick to get past their own yeah buts. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And for even more tips, connect with me at markawolfe.com/podcast. Until next time, keep challenging those excuses and keep moving forward.